Hi there, my name is Anna Nunez. I'm a co-founder of Shea Nunez. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the simple process of designing a logo by hand on paper and then bringing it into Adobe Illustrator to turn it into a beautiful logo. It's a pretty simple process that I'm sure you'll be able to master, so let's get started. For this tutorial, we are going to use paper, pencils, and some felt-tipped pens. I have some microns here, which are really great, and some pencils with a heavier weight. This is a 4B and a B, but it honestly doesn't matter too much. I have an eraser, a ruler if we need it, but for the style that I'm gonna do, I won't need a ruler, but that's an option. You need a camera phone or a scanner, but a camera phone's easy and everyone has that. And a laptop with Adobe Illustrator on it. So the reason I have multiple options of paper here is so that I can explain to you what the best choice is going to be. Something like a thick watercolor or a textured paper is not going to be ideal for this tutorial because there's a lot of grooves in the paper that creates a shadow when you go to scan it or photograph it, and then that will cause issues later in Adobe Illustrator. So I don't recommend watercolor paper or something with a texture. What you want is a paper that's super smooth. So this is just a computer cardstock. I like it because it's a bit thicker, so it doesn't crease or bend as much. You want to have your paper be as smooth and flat as possible. But everybody, or most everybody with a printer, should have just regular printer paper, and that's always an option as well if you'd like to use that. So I'm gonna stick with the cardstock and I'm going to get started. The style of logo that I'm going to create in this tutorial is called the signature logo. That's the official name that I've given it, which basically just means that it's a more script style. It's in the style of your own signature, so that makes it very approachable and easy. If you have a signature, you can create a signature logo. This style of logo is pretty ideal for any brand that centers around an individual, so a fine artist, a copywriter, a DJ, a photographer, anyone who wants to visually communicate that there's a person, a human being behind the brand that's being represented. So even though the layout's not exclusively for sole proprietor, it is an easy way to add a personal touch to a brand and a guaranteed design that no other brand will have because it's your signature and it's uniquely yours. So a way that you can approach this is by finding your pencil and then just creating some signatures. So you can kind of practice and figure out what speaks to your brand. So you can just kind of practice, almost like you're in school, just practicing your signature. Find something that feels good. Maybe I'll work on something for Shea Nunez instead. All right. Make one a little bit bigger, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so I have some options here that I'm enjoying and that I'd like to see digitized. I'm gonna go with this one and this one. I'll just show you both. So I'm gonna look through my pens now and find a thickness of pen that I'd like. I'll probably do the 0.5. This is the micron. I'm going to just trace over my signature, my design. You could always go straight to pen and do it that way, but I found that this can help me be a little bit more tidy about it. It can also just afford me the opportunity to sketch and be a little less precious. So I'm just gonna work over my pencil. And this is a pretty small tip of my pen, so I might go over it a few times just to thicken it up.
Could even add a little bit of thickness to it. Give it almost a calligraphy kind of effect. And if you mess up a little, it's okay, because you can always clean it up in Adobe Illustrator. This used to be how I did all of my designs, and it's a little tedious, so I don't do it too often anymore. But in the beginning of my work as a designer, my ideas exceeded my ability in Illustrator, so this was a nice way that I could just explore lots of different lettering ideas without needing to be confined to anything in the program. All right, so this one's good. And let's see, for my name, maybe I'll just keep it a little simpler. I do have kind of this upward slant. I could have done it a little more straight across if I wanted to use a ruler. Now I'm going to take my eraser, make sure that this pen is nice and dry, and then I'm going to erase anywhere that I see a pencil mark. This is part of why I love these micron pens so much, because they dry really quickly and they don't smudge when I go to erase them. Now that the pencil is erased, I'll just go fine-tune the signature just to make sure that the lines look nice. Another reason why you want to go over your pencil and pen and then make sure to erase the pencil is so that the image is nice and crystal clear when you bring it into Illustrator. It makes it way easy to vectorize. I will show you why in a minute. So you don't want any thin areas or gaps. Just want to make sure the line is as smooth as you can get it. Another reason for a nice pen. Sometimes a steady hand can take some practice. So you can do this as many times as you need to. And you can also design any kind of logo this way. It doesn't have to be a signature scripty logo. All right. Now that these are finished, just make sure everything's erased that needs to be erased. And it's time to bring it into Illustrator. So what I will do with my phone is I will open up my camera app, and I'm going to hold it as level as I possibly can get it. I also want to make sure that there's no shadows being cast. So for example, if this was sitting up here, you could see that it would be casting shadows on the paper, which would conflict with image trace in Illustrator. So you just want to make sure it's near a window, a nice bright light on a flat surface, and you want to take the photo as level as you can possibly take it of your drawing. I'm going to do it for both. All right, and I'm just giving myself a few options so that when I bring it into my computer, I have some choices, but I have a nice clear image. Again, you could have used a scanner, but the phone is just convenient. And I'm just gonna select all the images and I'm going to airdrop them to my computer. We can work with them from there. Now I'm going to go into Adobe Illustrator and I'm going to create a new document. I just have it set at a standard 11 by 8 inch artboard, RGB color mode. I'm gonna hit create. And I'm going to paste in a predetermined color palette that I already had saved from another document. This photo I'll use later for something fun. I'm going to open up my downloads and I'm going to find the images that I just airdropped in so that I can begin playing with them. What I'm looking for is just as crystal clear of an image as I can possibly get. Something that shows the background being very contrasted against the design. Let's see which of these looks better. Maybe this one. And I'm going to bring them into Illustrator. Size them down a little bit. And I'm going to click image trace. I have a bunch of just settings that I've already made for myself, but I'll click on the default setting so that we can start a little bit from scratch and I can show you how to clean it up. Right off the bat, it looks great. Again, I just hit image trace. And then I'm gonna go click window, go down to image trace, and I'm gonna pull up some bars under the advanced tab where I can just play around with it a little bit more. I'm gonna bring the corners down. I'll bring the paths up. I'll bring the threshold down. You can do a lot with these little nodules, so it's just kind of a matter of finding your personal preference and giving yourself a good starting point that you can then begin to fine-tune your design. Another nice little trick is that you can go down here and click ignore white. And so it's going to make it nice and transparent. Then when everything's looking good and you're enjoying the amount of detail that you have, you want to click expand. And this will turn it into a vector graphic. And then I'm going to click the little selection tool, the direct selection tool, and I'm going to clean it up even further by getting rid of all the noise and all the extra little nodules. And we have our design. We've got the Shea Nunez design, nice little logo. And then we've got the Anna Nunez design. So I'm going to do the same thing again, just so you can see. I'll go up to image trace at the top, and then I'm going to click default. It's just warning me that it's a big image. And right out of the gate, it looks pretty good. But again, we can go into the image trace window. I tend to like my threshold to be a little bit less. My noise, to bring my noise down. Bringing the corners bar down will soften things a little bit, so I'll do that. All right, and then I'll hit ignore white and expand. And then I'm gonna click, if you're on a Mac, a nice shortcut is just clicking A, and then it'll give you this direct selection tool where you can begin to clean things up. All right, looking nice and tidy. So now we have our two designs that we created by hand on paper. It's so exciting and lovely that you can do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean up little errors or little mistakes just by clicking the little imperfections, hitting delete. You can hit the delete anchor point tool and begin to adjust these nodules and playing around with them. Moving things around ever so slightly so that you can clean stuff up. This takes some time, it's a little tedious, takes some practice. And the cleaner your drawing, the less work that you have to do in this stage, so that's something else to keep in mind. And I'm just hitting the delete nodule so that I can smooth these edges and clean up the design. Another tool that I like to use is the smooth tool. And what you'll want to do for this tool, I'm going to delete that little module. What you want to do for this tool is you want to click on your object, then click on the smooth tool and just run it along the side. This is something that I started using just to give me a little bit of a shortcut when cleaning up my design. It just smooths things out automatically without you having to manually touch every single little nodule, which can get exhausting. And the more you do this, the quicker you'll get at it. So it just takes a little bit of practice. And then you'll have a beautiful logo on your hands. If you were to do this in Procreate and draw it there, that might save you a little time as well. But I love showing the process for drawing it on hand because anybody can do that. I'm just going to smooth this one up a little. Just using that smooth tool works wonders. Now we just have this nice handmade vibe. All right, now you could sit here, oops, you don't ever want to hit directly on the line. Always just want to drag the smooth tool alongside it because it might mess things up a little. Alrighty, of course there are things that I could probably do to this for hours and hours and ways that I could tweak it to make everything look a little more even. I might actually move this a little bit closer just by clicking it and dragging it. And of course I could go down here and I could do the same thing with my other signature to clean it up a little bit more. So now I have this lovely handcrafted design that I drew, this little signature for my brand. And I just brought in this photo. I'm going to create another artboard around this image so that I can save it out. But I brought in this photo so that I could show you how I might use my flat lay photography to give this a little backdrop. If I'm presenting it on Instagram, I might do something like this. Just a fun little idea for how you might want to display it. Now that our logo's ready to go, I'm going to just select the first one. I'm going to copy it, paste it, bring it outside of the artboard. I'm doing this so that I can save it out in a nice, clean, tidy way. I'd like it to be one of these colors from this palette that I had already selected. And I'm going to click on the artboard tool now, or you Shift O, and then I'm going to click on the design, and this will create a board perfectly sized for the design that I can then use to save it out. So I'm going to click either save as if I want to keep it as a vector, and you can save it as an EPS. Typically I'd save it as an EPS or a PNG, and you just want to make sure that the artboard is artboard number 3 because this is the third artboard that we created. Or if you want to save it out as a PNG, which is always a great idea, you can hit File, Export, Export As, and then you can export it as a PNG. But you just want to make sure, again, that it's artboard number 3 because it's the third one. So I'm going to hit Export with a transparent background, a high resolution, hit OK. And then I'm going to go find my file. And now we have this nice transparent PNG file that you can use on your website, on an email newsletter, wherever you'd like to place your logo design. And we did all of this originally by hand, so that's really exciting. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I can't wait to see the beautiful logos that you create by hand.